What's happening, family? Sacred Sons are back with another podcast. Today we have a special guest for you, along with Triad members Aber, Bastia,
Yo,
J Mac.
what's up?
We have our brother, the relational pillar of Sacred Sons Convergence 3, the man who produces the most epic videos on Instagram in regards to relationships and sex. His name is Stefanos Sifandos, and he's here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome him.
Oh, brother, so good to be here. I'm so excited.
Yeah, man. We are stoked that you're here with us. We've been weaving together for about, 8 months or so since Convergence 2 when you joined us. Man, we have these pillars of our organization, and you're truly one of them. And we really honor you and welcome you here today. So we're going to get into man and sex. We're going to get into relationships. We're going to get deep. We're going to get personal today. So
it's the only way.
It's the only way, right? And so before we do that, we're going to go ahead and check in. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Stefanos.
Yeah.
Just take some breath for yourself. Really tap in and let us know what is most present for you in this moment.
So, for me at the moment, it's really the best way to describe it is that bittersweetness. It's that the next transition of my life and my life with my wife and our family and what's happening there, and just the realization that, we're temporarily leaving California for some time and grounding in another place that is foreign to us and not so foreign, but foreign enough. And I feel very much at home here. She's been here for 20 years, yet we're completely clear that we need to move. And so there's a paradox there for us, and it's just really bittersweet. And so it's bringing up a lot of sadness for me. I'm acquainting it and equating it to loss. It's the loss of the friendships that I have here, and that I've developed over a shortish period of time. It's the loss of the energy of this place, the environment of this place, the physical environment, the ocean, the mountains, the weather. I mean, that's a big thing, and I come from that place in Australia as well, where we just have amazing weather. And so it's bringing up a lot of loss for me. And in that loss, I'm bringing memories. I was very close to my grandparents. And so I'm thinking a lot about them. I'm thinking about going to Australia for 2 months now, and then having then to leave my friends who have been my friends for 20 something years, And of course I'll be back there in a few months or a year, but there's tribe's very important to me. I think it's important to every single man that's sitting here right now, and probably most of the people listening. And it's important to you because you either really have it in your life, or it's important to you because you want more of it in your life.
Absolutely. And
we're social beings, right? And so I'm realizing more and more the importance of tribe. And there's just this sadness, man. It's just this sadness. There's just a sadness. It's just a deep sadness. And, we were sharing before as well that before earlier today, I had an argument with my wife, and we haven't had conflict for quite some time. And it's interesting because the conflict was her wanting me to see a particular perspective, which is what most conflict's about, and me wanting her to see a particular perspective. And, I ended the conversation in not a very healthy and mature way. And part of me purposely did that to rebel, because I feel that I was still joking about it because we haven't had much conflict lately. So I thought I was sort of in the conflict and in the energy of it and riding the wave. And I felt these old parts of me coming back and wanting to go deeper in the conflict and just make an ass of myself, essentially. And I didn't quite do that, but I didn't end the conversation really well. And so we'll make up and we'll patch that up. And I've already learned a lot from then to now. And I'm sure she has as well. And I just think it's also a pressure thing. We're just feeling the tension of moving home, which is, one of the most stressful things that you can do for some reason. I mean, we don't we don't feel overtly massively stressed. It's just a clusterfuck, and there's just clutter at home, just with boxes and shit everywhere.
I just want to reflect back to, it's so cool because you put out a lot of content around relationships. So hearing you be really in it, it's kind of cool to see the human side of you. Yeah. And you just posted a video the other day that was like, how do you avoid arguments? Yeah. You don't. You actually have to go through them.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. You do it.
So honor you for being a real human being.
Thank you, brother. Honor you for actually watching the video. Thank you. No, that's it. You've just got to go through, and you've got to go through it in a really respectful way. And honestly, I wasn't super respectful of the way I handled that conversation now. And, I'll do my thing, and I own that, and I'll continue to own that. And I know it's not the end of the world. It's interesting, man, when you sort of look at yourself developmentally, 5, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, having a very similar conversation, I would have just been so different. I would have been so unhealthy, man. I would have been in such unhealthy posturing. I wouldn't take ownership. I'd be so stubborn. I'd be aggressive. So it makes me realize, okay, I'm really content with my growth as well. And there's always room to grow. There's always, we're not perfect, like you said.
And these moments allow you the space to see how far you've come.
Yeah, absolutely. But how we argue is really, really important as well. But, we'll obviously continue with the check-ins, and I know we're going to go deep into so many different areas, but, with that, I'm just checking in with a shit ton of sadness and gratitude. It's simultaneous sadness and gratitude, deep gratitude for my life, deep gratitude for having faith and confidence in my own self to have a deeper conversation with Christine, and knowing that she'll meet me there in that place. I just know she will, because that's our commitment. And just honoring my sadness and honoring being in this space right now. And, for those that are listening, conflict and challenge is really healthy, especially for men. It's how we meet that challenge. And sometimes we're not always going to meet it in the best way, but when we can very quickly as we can pivot, that's where the growth happens. Pivot and realize that, I could meet myself a little bit differently. Let me go into that. It's uncomfortable. It's unknown. It's not like me, but let me just explore. That's where a lot of shifts can happen. And so for me, that's what I want to choose to focus on, is that. Yeah. How can I pivot? So with that, I'm in.
Thank you for that epic check-in. He's all the way in. Albert, what you got?
This is Albert checking in. Yeah. Checking in with longing for more time with my family. It's a 4-year anniversary of Devon and I making love, and she stopped by earlier. We had lunch, and she brought Cairo. It's just like the time that we have, just not enough. So I'm longing for more time with family, and working as an IT engineer. So along with co-stewarding the return of the father archetype with y'all, I'm also working as an IT engineer, building up networks and troubleshooting issues unrelated to men. Well, I guess it is related, but still, yeah. And so, just really feeling that longing, wanting more time with family. Really excited about the holidays now that Cairo's he's just blossoming, he's saying words, wants to explore everything. His curiosity is just off the charts, and he's like just learning so many things so quickly. And I'm like, I don't want to miss out. So it's just really the feeling of, I don't want to miss, what my dad missed in me. And I just want to be there and hold him and witness him and be his dad, and not be away at the office grinding. Yeah, so just feeling that longing. At the same time, gratitude that my life is fucking beautiful, and I get to spend it with y'all brothers. We get to do this work and show up for other men in really good ways, calling them home to themselves. And so along with my process, I know other men are going through it as well. And the holidays are a time of, there's a lot of challenges. People have just great holidays. They have great memories of the holidays. And there's some people that have really difficult holidays, a lot of aloneness, a lot of disconnection. And so I think it's just so appropriate, that we get to do this work and bring it forward, and that we're all living real life human experiences and bringing that through, Yeah, just grateful to be here, grateful to drop in with y'all brothers, and ready to do this. With that, I'm in.
Thank you, brother. Jay, you got a super long epic check-in for us, or what?
I can try. This is Jason. I'm feeling a lot of joy to be here with all of you, listening to all you check in. recognizing how grateful I am to have mirrors of men that are committed to this work in a way that is similar to me, committed to the deep, committed to excellence, and that we're doing our best at it with everything that is present in our lives. We're not doing this work in a way that's like, we're crushing it, but we're not like over crushing it. We're not, I don't feel like we really subscribe to that mentality of like, we gotta fucking burn ourselves out to make this work. And that's been really challenging. And what I've found with myself in not doing that is like, I really want to do that and I really want to bring it there. And then when things aren't going the way that they potentially could be, my instinct is to either blame it on somebody else or shame myself, basically. And I'm saying all this because this is what I'm present to. This is what I'm now realizing in these moments of most of today, just sitting with some pieces around communicating with people in my life, and the gratitude of being able to have these sacred mirrors to do this work and to not do it alone, and to just find, it's like we talk about the lone wolf thing, like on convergences, and like this is what it looks like for me in these small moments. So I'm in with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, brother.
Adam Jackson checking in with the word nourishment. I presently feel nourished in my body. Just had some delicious curry. I'm feeling nourished in friendship with the brothers here in this room and being able to connect on a deeper level. This is something that I haven't always had in my life. And so feeling nourished by the brotherhood, feeling nourished by the tribe, like Stephanos, I'm also a believer in tribe. And I'm a believer that as a tribe, we can go further together. You know what I mean? So feeling nourished, holding a lot of space in my own personal life, but also for the brotherhood, for everybody out there, and feeling privileged to be in a position to hold that space with Sacred Sons. So with that, I'm in. And we're gonna drop in about relationships, man. We're all in it right now, right? Yeah. So we might as well go there. And so, Stephanos, I know you've been doing men's work and relationship work for 15 years plus. At a core level, this is what I want to ask you. What is the difference between sacred union and the average relationship? Sacred union is a term that I've seen you use, and just for the men out there, or the men and women out there who are in relationships, what is it about sacred union that's meaningful to you?
There's a number of different ways I usually respond to this, and the order in the way that I choose to respond to it depends on, the context of the conversation. But I want to start with an example or an analogy, right? And so imagine for a moment blue skies, and you're outside and you're seeing the blue sky. And then all of a sudden, the grey clouds and the white clouds, they start to come in, right? And then it gets really dark. The grey turns sort of these dark grey, black clouds. And then it starts to rain. You go inside and you're looking at these clouds and you're looking at the sky from inside of your home, and you're thinking, I wonder if the rain is going to stop or when it's going to stop. You never really think, is it going to stop? You also really ask, when is it going to stop, right? And so what most relationships do is that they see those grey clouds and they think they're never going to stop. They think they're just going to be there forever. It's going to rain forever. It's going to be thunder and lightning. It's going to be miserable and dark. And we start to label and judge and place attachment and this meaning to these grey clouds. And for us, we perceive that this is difficult and challenging. And so we think it's going to be like that forever. And so what I equate to an average relationship, and anyone can be in sacred union, by the way, and I'm going to go deeper into sacred union as well, but anyone can be in sacred union. And so we look at these relationships, and we look at the grey sky, and the average relationship, or the relationship that isn't in sacred union, it reacts to those clouds in a way that this is a forever period. This is a forever climate. I'm never going to get out of this. I'm stuck in this. And so we become reactive as opposed to being responsive. Whereas people in sacred union look at the grey clouds and just say, oh, this is temporary. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to manage it. And we're going to manage it together.
And we're willing to acknowledge it and manage it together.
And so the willingness is a big piece, right? And so what most people do is they split up, they separate. It gets too difficult. It gets too challenging. Because we all know, like, a bright, sunny day, 70-degree day, for those of you in Celsius, like a 28-degree day or 30-degree day, bright, sunny, blue skies, that's desirable. That's beautiful, right? When it's rainy and cloudy and gloomy, that's nice too, but it's not really desirable, right? So it's not a homeostatic weather pattern, so to speak. It's not completely nice. And so we panic in relationship, and we argue and we fight, and we think that fight's going to be forever. So the grey clouds represent the conflict or the challenge, and we think the challenge is going to be there forever, and we react from that place. It's a fear. Whereas those in sacred union don't have that fear. They see it as an opportunity for growth. They see it as an opportunity to be different and up-level themselves in the relationship.
So it seems like you're saying sacred union is more of a perspective shift than anything that's super spiritual or something that you're doing at a deeper level. It's shifting the perspective that you have on the relationship, and it requires an unequivocal amount of commitment.
Yeah, the perspective initiates us into going into the depth. And so sacred union is something that where two people are together. It's maybe a level 3, level 4 relationship style, where two people are together, or 3 or 4 people, depending on whatever your relational dynamic is. Everyone has different preferences, but we'll just use a heteronormative example just for simplicity's sake. Two people are together, and they choose very clearly. For me, this is what ultimately defines sacred union. Both people sit down and both people ask the same set of questions. And here's the question. How are you growing in this relationship because of me? How am I growing in this relationship because of you? How are you growing in the relationship because of how you are being in this relationship with me? And how am I growing in this relationship because of how I'm being in this relationship with you? And the last question is, how are we together in this relationship contributing to our communities and our families and the greater earth, basically? How are we contributing to humanity? And ultimately, for me, that defines sacred union. Now, what underpins all that is this willingness and this commitment. You've mentioned those two words, and they're very strong words. It's a willingness to traverse the difficulty. It's a willingness to traverse the pain. It's a willingness to traverse the darkness and the unknown together, and sometimes alone, sometimes in separation, sometimes in greater levels of solitude. But it's a willingness to believe in, and I don't want to use the word fight, but there is an element of that, because we're fucking human. And if we think for a moment that we're not going to fight sometimes, we're going to fight. I'm not talking about fighting with each other, but fighting for what we believe in, fighting for what's important. But we're going to have that. We're going to have those inner and outer battles. And so it's a fight for the sacredness of our merging. And that's a constant check-in, right? That isn't, we make the decision once and then we don't have to check in again. We're human. We're going to have to check in.
I love this because I think there's a misconception about sacred union, which is, I found the perfect piece to fit my puzzle, and now we're whole.
It's called codependence.
Right. It's not about finding the one and saying, I found the perfect mate, soulmate, twin flame, whatever. This is about doing the deep, deep work.
Yeah. Like Jason puts it really nicely, the deep, deep. And I love when you say it. It reminds me of Tom Hanks in Atlas, Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
When he plays
the true.
The true.
Yeah. I love that true.
That's true. It's the true.
It's
the true.
But that's part of it. And so part of it's commitment, part of it's willingness, part of it is going to those depths, part of it is choosing to see each other in a different way. There's so much that comes with sacred union. Part of it is recognizing that there is no perfection per se, and that you're bringing 100% of your 50% to the relationship.
Yes.
That's how it is.
So would you say, though, that there's a piece in sacred union connected directly to the sacred, the merging of two into one?
The immediate answer is yes for me, but there's an and there, right? And so, whilst it's a blending, there's also a sovereignty that remains. So this is a really nice analogy that I heard. Imagine, so I've got my left hand and I'm holding it sort of towards my face, and behind my left hand, I'm raising four fingers, and you can just see the top part of my four fingers, right? And so when you see here, you see four different entities moving or something like that, right? You see four different objects moving, but you don't know, well, you do know, but let's say you don't know, but you do know, yeah. But it's connected to a hand, right? Wow. And so what I was once explained was that divinity, or that sacred union as an example, this ultimate unity consciousness, we as individuals are sparks of that consciousness coming from one spark, right? You can even think of a fire that emits sparks. And in this case, the hand is the ultimate force, or the ultimate consciousness, we are that, by the way, but we're individual expressions of that consciousness. And so sacred union is no different. We're coming together. We're still individual beings, or at least the illusion of individual beings, not to complicate things. And there is a merging there. There is an intertwining there. And that's part of the commitment to the deeper work as well. Now, that's very different from codependence, where you're relying on someone for your sense of self, or your well-being. Completely not that. Yeah.
So let's say somebody's in sacred union. They're doing the deep from time to time. The clouds roll in, they roll out. When, in your work, what has it looked like, the people that you've worked with, when it's enough for them?
You mean when the relationship is time to end?
Maybe there's codependency elements, maybe there's not, but like what's too much from your experience?
In short, for me, the too much, or the overwhelm, or the unwillingness to continue is generally a compound effect of there's too much water under the bridge. So they've had experiences that they've shared with each other that they can't reconcile and can't forgive and can't let go. Now, that's somewhat of a superficial answer. Let me go deeper. The depth to that is that two things. One, hey, maybe that's just the timing of their union. It's a reason, season, lifetime, right? That's their journey mates. Christine calls it, my wife calls them journey mates. So that for that part of your journey, they were your mate. The other part to that, for me, fundamentally, and I've worked with thousands of people, individuals and groups, thousands and thousands of people, what we keep coming back to is there's unresolved, largely unconscious, but unresolved childhood wounding. Developmental wounding that's taken place, this is almost for every single person, that hasn't been reconciled. And we bring that into the relationship, and that feeds more trauma into the relationship. We project and we blame the other person for how we feel, and we can't reconcile that because we can't reconcile our own selves, because we're unable to go deeper into our own self to heal those wounds that we have. And that the patterns and the beliefs and the models of reality that we've developed that usually form this projection element that we don't take responsibility for ourselves. And that's been a massive pain point for people unable to really tap into the sacredness of union and what the beauty of that relationship can be, the deep work.
So how can people distinguish between like their wound mate, drawn together like by a trauma bond, versus a soulmate, someone that they can really grow with?
Depends how you define soulmate. That's an interesting, yeah.
Well, someone that you can grow with, because there's many soulmates. Yeah. As I see it, there's many ones out there for us that we can grow with. Doesn't necessarily mean for the rest of your life. Yes. I think that's a misconception. But there's a lot of people that in the spiritual communities, you could say, that are like, hey, I found my twin flame and everything's working out. There's synchronicities around it, and we're meant to be. And
cut to 3 years later.
Well, even just like 3 months later, or like half a year later, and they're all the shadows are coming out, and they're like, oh, and then there's like twin flame analogy. They're like, oh, we're meant to do this, and it's like really destructive in many ways. What would you say for someone that's maybe experiencing some of these synchronicities and some of this deep feeling of connection and remembrance, and yet it's still early on, and they're like, I want to move in with you and build a life together?
It's a great question, and it's a complex one as well. And the reason why it's a complex one is because there are so many factors that impact and influence the individuals that are involved. But I'm going to go back to the core essence of your question in terms of trauma bonds and say, soulmates or sacred union, right? Or something that's more intentional in that way. And I'm going to give you an example of my own personal life, and I do my best to give very real life examples and wherever I can in my own life as well. So I'm not just speaking from other people's experiences, but my own. So when Christine and I got together, there was a level of spiritual arrogance that we had, and there was a level of oh, we've done deep work, we're going to be great. You know, we're
You've
fine.
done your individual work,
absolutely.
and now you're coming together. So what could go wrong?
What could go wrong, right? But we're ready. We're ready.
Anybody else out there got that? Just go ahead and put your hands up.
Yeah. And so intellectually we knew, because we'd actually discussed it openly and verbally, we knew, I'm sure we're going to have some conflict, because we discussed all this shit within the first week of meeting each other. We went into father wounds, we went into mother wounds, we went into parental trauma, childhood trauma, we went into everything. So we knew it intellectually, but we didn't believe it. And that was the spiritual arrogance. Now, fast forward 3 weeks from when we physically first met, because we were communicating for a few months before that. The honeymoon period ended very quickly, and our quote-unquote traumas rose to the surface, the very shit that we thought that we had dealt with. Now, did we deal with it? Yes. It wasn't that we didn't deal with it, it's that the opportunity was for us, and I'm going to give you a distinction in a moment, the opportunity was for us to go into another layer of it, or layers of it. And yes, we did. That's exactly what we did. Now, the distinction is at that point, we didn't crumble enough to separate. We didn't let our egos get in the way. We metaphorically and physically, in our case, took a very deep breath, and we asked ourselves, how do we want to deal with this? For me, it was, I'm not interested in repeating the same shit again with someone else. Right. Not going to happen. So I'm all in. Are you all in? Yep, I'm all in. Great. So we're going to work this out.
And that's the commitment that we spoke to earlier.
Correct.
You have
the willingness.
You have to have that willingness and that depth of commitment that the other person is not going to run away, right?
Conceptually, I'm esoteric, I'm spiritual. I've been told I'm too esoteric. Sometimes I don't make sense with the shit that I say and the things. I'll take that. I'll take that. But I'm also very pragmatic. Show me your actions, because our actions are our spirituality in motion. That's why we're physical beings. We're in an era where we're inundated with information. There's people that believe and think and feel, and they probably are, they're light beings, and they want to leave this planet. And maybe that's their dharma. Maybe that's where they are in their life. And we can't negate the physical. It's not about a priority that the immaterial, the spiritual is more important than the physical, or vice versa. They're equally as important. And so our physicality, every time we take action, every time we make a decision and we act on it, that momentum in this 3D realm is our spirituality in motion. That's growth in expansion. And so that there, for me, that's the proof. That's the trauma bonds coming together, saying, okay, we've met each other for a reason. Can we try and figure it out? Let's go seek some help. Who do we need? Let's get an intermediary. Let's get some friends involved. Let's get a therapist involved. Let's get a trauma counselor involved. Let me do my work. Let you do your work. Those people there, they're punching through their old patterns that no longer serve them.
Yeah, so it's the willingness to actually do the work and bring in outside help if necessary, whatever it takes.
Yeah, it is. And I know sometimes we want some amazing solution that's got this excellent formula and it's embedded in the secrets of physics, and actually it's just really fucking simple. Be willing.
Yeah. Willingness.
Well, something else that I just heard you speak to when you and Christine went there with each other in terms of like unpacking all the wounds.
We got uncomfortable.
Is that the truth is the path to sacred union. Like in any relationship, like the truth, or the truth of what's present, the truth of the emotions that arise, the truth of any situation, because I think that's also at the foundation of what a healthy relationship can be.
I'm with you there, man. I've spent many years not being truthful in my relationships. Yeah. Basically everyone, essentially everyone except for my last two. And last two meaning Christine being the one that I'm in now as well. And the one before that, I was very honest and truthful in that one. But every relationship before that, I wasn't truthful about myself. I wasn't honest to myself. I wasn't honest to them. I was unfaithful in those relationships.
So what was it for you that allowed your truth to arise, or the truth to arise, and you to acknowledge it and to acknowledge it to others?
Pain. I hit a point, and to be specific, in a relationship a few years ago, she discovered that I was being unfaithful and very dishonest in that relationship, and all this stuff just came to the surface, and it was just a turning point for me. It was a massive, massive turning point. And when I saw the pain that my actions had allowed her to feel, that she then chose to feel from that, and that I had caused that, massive shame came from this to the surface of all these suppressed childhood memories. And it really shook me, man. It shook me hard, and I made a decision. I made a decision immediately that day, but it took me about 3 weeks to get my grounding. And the fork in the road for me was, do I continue this behavior or do I go down this rabbit hole that I've been avoiding for a fucking very long time? And I chose, and I've got to be willing to do this. I need to go down this rabbit hole, and I don't care where it takes me. Suicide, mental asylum, death, obviously suicide, but whatever it is, I'm going down this. I don't care what the outcome is. It's not about the outcome. It's about me choosing this path, no matter what. And when I was in it, there were many times where I wanted to kill myself because it was so painful and so intense. Many times. I had a knife board that was glued to the wall with all these knives, and every morning I'd wake up and I'd look at those knives, and I just pictured myself, that traditional samurai death, putting that knife in me. It was just that much pain, especially in my stomach, because I was purging so much shit, right?
A part of that pain, this is your own personal pain, or was it the pain that you've caused another?
Everything. Yeah, everything. And my personal pain largely as well. That was really coming to the surface. And in those times, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to get out of this. And because I didn't want to commit suicide, I'm going to get out of this. And if and when I do, because then it was like if and when. It was more towards the when, but there was sometimes when it's like, am I going to get out of this? If and when I do, I'm going to teach what I have learned, and I'm going to help others break free from their stuckness, in life.
And that's where the inspiration for the work that you're presently doing,
that was the
seed of it.
Yeah. But like you said, I've been in this health and wellness space, mental health and emotional health and wellness for many, many years. But in this way, that was really the turning point. It's just really been a few years in this way, in this expression, the way it presents itself now.
Yeah, I really respect the rawness and the realness that you bring to this work. So shifting into your personal history, and specifically with men's work, what was your path to finding men's work as a passion and ultimately a part of your purpose?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. The first was I was asking myself the question of, is this the type of man that I want to be for the rest of my life? This was 7 years ago. And the answer was no, I don't want to be this man. This is not the man that I want to be.
Or maybe not even the man that you want to be, but this is not the man who I know myself as.
Yeah, and who I know. That's right. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I was being false.
Yeah.
It was all a facade. It was all a facade, man. Like the infidelity, the prostitution, the dishonesty, the deep aggression, it was just all a facade. It was coming from wounded places that were unhealed and unresolved. I hadn't looked at them. I was numbing myself, whether it was alcohol, whether it was women, whether it was excessive exercise and fitness and competing in that sense, whether it was entrepreneurship and business building. I was just numbing myself.
What did you do to get out of the numbness?
A number of different things. And so one of them, to answer your original question around men's work, was, and I'd practiced this before, but just not under this level of awareness, was celibacy. And so I practiced celibacy, and it changed my relationship to my own cock. It changed my relationship to my own sexuality. It completely transformed the way I saw women. I started subjectifying them instead of objectifying them. And I just want to be clear on something as well, because I speak a lot to attraction dynamics and sexual dynamics and the biology and the evolution of humanity and how we attract and magnetize and mateship and all that. There's actually nothing wrong with us objectifying each other. It's just how we do it, and the fact that we do it very excessively, that's actually a problem. Yeah. But objectifying each other is not a bad thing.
I think in our culture, there's no moderation in the amount of objectification that's happening right now.
Correct. Yeah, and the intention's just fucking mucky and blurry, right? That's the problem. But objectification is not, or objectifying, it's a very natural process that we go through, that our brains go through, and we don't want to avoid that because it's actually part of keeping us safe. But anyway, I don't want to get on a tangent. So that celibacy, that longer period of celibacy for me really gave me a new perspective, and it helped me understand myself. And what happened in that time was as well, because I wasn't masturbating, there was no pornography. I mean, I'd stopped pornography for a while before then, but it was no sex, no pornography, very little contact with the feminine. It was just really going into me, I became hyper creative because I had all this energy, right? I had all this juice, literally and metaphorically, and I had to put it somewhere. And so I started creating programs, frameworks, visions, models. I started understanding what does it mean to be a healthy man. I started going deeper into masculinity, deeper into men's work, deeper into my own self and my own practices. I had space and time to practice so much because I wasn't obsessed about my cock. I wasn't obsessed about ejaculation and orgasm and women. And I could be with a woman and not need to have sex with her. I could just be with her and be in her presence and really observe her without needing something from her, you know? Wow. And so that gave me a deep perspective into men's work. And so I just started creating, man. I started creating my own frameworks for advanced models and more basic models and reading and writing and spending a lot of time on my own in solitude, not aloneness. I made this distinction on Jetty's podcast a few weeks ago, and I made this very distinction very clear because I think men struggle with isolation. And when you talk about solitude and isolation, sometimes the two are mixed as if they're the same, and they're not. They're very, very different. And I want to make this distinction because I think it's a very important point in our community, in our men's community, but also the listeners as well and the audience, knowing who the audience is, right? So for me, solitude is very deliberate and it's purposeful and it's healthy. And an example of that is that young boy about to turn into a man that goes out into the wilderness, disappears for a few days on his own, comes back, learns about himself, is greeted by his fellow men, his fathers, his uncles, his brothers, his friends, the community members, the men, and they see him and they reflect back to him who he is now and who he was and the growth for him that's yet to come. And that's solitude, when we disappear into and we retreat into ourselves to be with ourselves, to be in nature, right? To understand and find out who the fuck are we? Right. And we do that in solace, okay? That's the soul of man, yeah? And then isolation for me is very passive. It's victimization. You're victimized. You're coming from fear. You're living from fear. You have a fear of being rejected, humiliated, abandoned, so you isolate yourself. You jump in a cube, you drive your cube to another cube, you sit in a cube for 10 hours, right? And then you come home in that cube, or you're different, or Burr, of course, but as an example, we stuck in these cubes, then we get stuck in familiarity. We go home, we press a few buttons, we get food delivered to us, we make sure we masturbate and watch some porn, then we eat and we watch a TV series until midnight. We get up in the morning and we fucking do it again. And now, whilst none of us do that here, we know that that's not the case for so many.
Okay. And this is great because on this podcast, we like to give men tools.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that numbness piece because there are so many men who are struggling with porn addiction, with that exact premise that you just laid out. And so if someone has awareness of an addiction or of something that's holding them back or something that's keeping them numb, do you have any tools or advice that can help someone get started just to take the first step out of that numbness?
Yeah, for sure. So I love how you mentioned that, if they have an awareness, because that's obviously a very important piece. If you don't have the awareness, how can you take any action and make some changes?
Well, I think what we're doing right now is making people aware.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you're listening to this and you're saying, oh shit, that's me. Welcome to the awareness that is what is going on.
But if they're listening to this, then, they're on their way.
No judgment on anyone, but, life ebbs and flows. Sure. And, I've been at my highest highs and felt like, oh man, I got it all together. The game's over. And then boom, things come up in life. So you just checking in with wherever you're at in your life,
No, and I've been in that place too, Adam, where, the convenience of being alone was easy because I didn't want to face the world. I couldn't be bothered. I just wanted to be in my own space. And it wasn't for solitude. It was because I was just disconnected from my body. I was disconnected from who I was being in the world, And so I can relate to that. I give that example very perfectly about the cube and the porn and the food and the routine around that because, in a sense, I've lived that life before as well. So I can relate to it. So some tools, right? Firstly, I can't express how important this is. You need to have a tribe. If you're a man, you need to have a tribe of men that see you and witness you. You have to do that. Like, for example, there's just no excuse. And I'm going to tell you why. Here at Sacred Sons, we offer how many different modalities and ways in to build tribe, whether it's the membership site, whether it's the weekly or the monthly circles, whether it's convergence, whether it's EMP or EMX. There's just so many different opportunities, right, to create tribe. And if you don't want any of that, that's cool. Go find a meetup group. Create your own meetup group. A client of mine, I'm going to share his name, Daniel. He works in the mine sites back home in Perth, one of my homes in Perth in Australia, and mining's very big there. And so he's just about to have a baby. He's literally 2 months away from having a baby, very similar circumstances to you, brother. And he's working 2 weeks away, 1 week's killing him. He's 1 week back at home, it's killing him. He wants to be with his family, with his wife and with his little bubba that's about to come, right? And he's got no one. He doesn't resonate with the guys up there. They're talking about prostitution and smoke and cigarettes and drugs and this and alcohol. He doesn't resonate.
Yeah, and that's really important because that's one of the reasons we created Sacred Sons, because it might not be that the tribe is in your immediate surroundings.
Correct.
But we are utilizing the technology that we have to connect us to a greater level.
Yeah.
And we use those tools through the screens to actually connect us in real life.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's where this work gets done.
Yeah, it's a part, what we ultimately want to do is, I joke about this, I did a video on this the other day, the number one problem with online dating is that we don't take it offline quick enough. And so, what I mean? And it busts up the biological interaction, but that's a side note. But take it offline, and we have those opportunities to do that. But with Daniel, I said, bro, start your own meetup. And so he did. He had 60-something people respond to a post that he put out.
Wow.
And I think 7 or 8 people ended up coming to his first meetup. That's amazing. Men. And really high quality, high caliber men as well. And so, because that's the type of people he's going to attract. So you just got to put yourself out there. Now, why do I say tribe as a tool? Because when you have a healthy tribe, you can have a healthy reflection of what's happening. You can learn and practice to be honest with people that you trust, respect, and revere. You can say, hey guys, I don't think I have a problem, or I don't think I have an addiction, or I don't think I have a habit that's unhealthy, but maybe you could tell me otherwise. And so you come in and you say, these are my habits, what are your thoughts? And your brothers are going to reflect you without judgment. They're not going to say to you, oh, you're a fucking idiot. They're not going to say to you, I can't believe you do that. You're disgusting. What type of man are you? They're not going to say that. They're going to say, brother, this is what I see. This is what I witness. This is where I think maybe you could do something a little bit different. This is where I think your value is and where your worth is. We're going to build up our own self-worth. We get into these isolating habits because we have a low sense of self-worth. And so a tribe, it's not about codependency. It's not about relying on the tribe for your sense of happiness. But the tribe is able to reflect back to you in real time with, I call it spiritual authority, who you are being. Because we're relational beings. They're our mirrors. Now, I'm not saying don't be discerning yourself. The fact that you've sought a tribe and you're being honest and sharing yourself means you have a level of self-reliance and assertiveness. And you are able to trust yourself and get some more feedback from your tribe. Once you've done that, put practices in place to build your self-worth up. Now, as a man, there are many you can do. Get in nature, start training your body. Start in the physical.
What would you say about the men that just, they have a lot of excuses? They're like, oh yeah, I'll get to a meeting at some point.
Fuck your excuses. That's the answer.
Fuck yeah.
No, seriously. And that's for me just being hard love, right? That, fuck your excuses, because your excuses are just going to keep you playing small. And when you're 70, 80 years old, if you live that long because of your shit habits, your unhealthy habits, you're going to regret not living your life fully. Why do I say start in the physical? Because it's tangible. It's not immaterial. It's not woo-woo. It's just easy access. It's there. We feel it straight away. You walk or you run really hard, or you do a hard yoga session, or you lift some weights, or you swing some kettlebells, or you go roll, or you box, or whatever you do, you're going to feel it. When you start moving your body, what happens to you physiologically is you start to literally physically feel better, mentally, emotionally feel better, right? You start then to put yourself in a state of expansion and spaciousness. In that state of spaciousness, you're not constricted and coming from fear. Physiologically, it's impossible, pretty much impossible. And so there you can get creative and you can start thinking laterally about your life in a very different way. Move your body, get confidence in yourself. Know that there's another way to be, that you don't need to, we were talking about pornography as an example, but we can use smoking a joint every night, or drinking 6 beers every night, or whatever, watching 4 or 5 hours of TV every day or every evening, whatever your numbing is, right? Know that you can change that habit. The quickest way to change a habit is change your physical state, change your physiological state. The first steps are always the challenging ones. That's why I say get a tribe where you can be held accountable. maybe you're not going to do it immediately. You're not going to make all these massive changes straight away, and you don't need to. One small step at a time, but the tribe helps you stay accountable. So when you ask for tools, I could give you another 38 tools.
Sure. But this is great because this is the first step. And for a lot of men who are out there, a lot of people who are listening, they just need to get on the path.
Yeah, on the first step. Too many steps are overwhelming. It's just not necessary. It's 1 or 2 steps. Master those steps. The elite are elite because they've mastered the basics. It's as simple as that. Get a solid tribe, you're a social being. Move your body with intent regularly, you're a physical being. Start there and don't worry about anything else.
I love that. I love the simplicity. And with that, it's simple, but it's not easy.
No, it's not. No, that will take up enough of your time. People want, yeah, it will. People want these solutions. Like, oh, do I go to a psychotherapist and see them 3 times a week? And do I go do this personality testing and that personality testing? And do I journal for 15 hours a day? And you can do all of that, absolutely. And I actually recommend getting professional help sometimes. Not sometimes, pretty much all the time. It's that's the area that I'm in, and I know the impact I make on people in that space that I help people move through, and I know the impact it's had on me having professional help, and assistance and guidance and mentorship and guides. And there's something really powerful when you make decisions for yourself at a simple level and you start executing on them. It feels really good.
Nobody can do it for us.
No.
Yeah.
It's like one step at a time, and we got to keep taking those steps.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Something that I would do, and this may sound really not strange, but it may not sound impactful, but I promise you it's so impactful. Whenever you do a training session, journal it. Write down what you did, how you felt going in, how you felt at the end. Just keep a log of what you're doing, writing it as well. Because there's tremendous vertical and right hemispherical brain integration that takes place when we write things, especially when we're being reflective. So you're talking about how you feel before, during, and after that workout, and you're also tangibly taking note of what you did. Yeah, absolutely. The reps, I ran 10 mile, whatever it is, right? I ran it in 70 minutes or whatever you did it in, okay? Or I went to the forest and I walked and I picked up some boulders and picked up some logs and carried some stuff, however you did it. But take note of it because it helps keep you really focused and engaged on that task. In fact, this is a tool that prisoners often use that are on death row, or prisoners that don't know what's going to happen to their lives. They'll start logging everything that they do, their thoughts, their activities during the day, because it helps ground them and keep them somewhat sane. In this case, it helps keep you really focused. Yeah.
I come back to this a lot, in anything that we're talking about is like the role models.
Yeah.
That we have in the world, and it's like as men we don't have a lot of role models of men like super sovereign to themselves in like a balanced and healthy way.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I agree with you, brother. I'm a big believer in sovereignty and self-reliance. Thoreau spoke a lot to that. Henry David Thoreau spoke a lot to self-reliance. It's a big part of my models as well, of how I view healthy masculinity. And adjunct to that is, hey, we also need tribe.
Yeah.
How do we factor that in?
You know what tribe does? It allows you to be the hero in your own movie.
Yeah.
It allows you to be that role model for yourself because only you can really envision the fullness of who you are.
Yeah, through the support, right?
Through the reflections of the members of that tribe, through those sacred mirrors.
The myth.
Yeah.
We create the myth together.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for everybody, but just knowing my own path, there's a lot of lone wolfing it, but part of that lone wolfing was really good for me because I was used to bypassing a lot of my pain, a lot of my stuff through relationship, a lot of unhealthy, toxic relationships. And so having that space of like 2 years where I was basically celibate, spending time in nature, and like you, just like, coming back into my own energetic sovereignty, that's really when I discovered like, whoa, there's so much more here that I'm not connected to, that I wasn't connected to. And so what I'm noticing in Sacred Sons is really a lot of men who have gone through a lot of their journey, have gone through that lone wolfing phase and are coming and ready for more. They're ready for authentic connection. They're ready to do this work on a bigger level.
Ready to stop playing small.
Yeah. You said something interesting there, Bro. Really, really powerful, brother. And that was for me when you were in your sovereignty for a couple of years and you really felt yourself. And I just want to go deeper into this distinction of isolation and solitude. And that isolation is when you're isolated, people are on their own, but they can't be doing just nothing. They can't just be being. They have to be doing something, watching TV. And when I speak about isolation as well, by the way, you can be isolated and be in a room full of people, but you feel massively alone. It's that, I need to fill my life with experiences. And technically speaking, everything is an experience. But with the isolations, I need to be doing something. Whether it's pornography, whether it's smoking dope or chain smoking cigarettes. And by the way, the green is the green goddess. There's nothing wrong with the herb, as the herb, as you say here in the US. The herb. Do you all know it's got a fucking H in front of it? Herb. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a sacred. It's a sacrament, right? It's a sacrament, but it's misused. Mm-hmm. It's misused in today's world.
Anything can be abused.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even the sacred could be abused.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but the isolation is where we're distracting ourselves, we're numbing ourselves, and whereas the solitude is we're just happy to just be and observe and feel what's happening within ourselves and give critical reflection to what's happening within ourselves.
Yeah, something that just came up for me was with some of those distractions, whether it's herb, whether it's television, whatever it is, one way to get clear on that or to get through it is to actually honor it, acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you're using this tool in an attempt to numb something or to bypass or whatever it is. And once you can get clear on that and honor it and say, okay, I've been using this for this reason to get me to this point, and now it's time to put it down. Now it's time to pause. Now it's time to shift or to pivot.
Yeah, I've definitely recognized that for me during periods of intense stress or overwhelm, life circumstances. It's at times I'm like, man, I'm going to numb myself. I need to go watch I'm going to watch 5 episodes of this Netflix show because I don't want to deal with that right now. And it takes away from my ability to just fully enjoy it. So it's at some point I'm like, oh, fuck, man, I got to deal with this.
I like this. That's another distinction as well, because I think sometimes, we work really hard. And what I mean by work, that can come in various forms, but we give a great deal. And sometimes, for me, I'll just speak for myself, but for me personally, sometimes I like at the end of a day to just sit down and just watch a good movie that's just fun, it's just light, it's fun, or a TV series.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, oh yeah, I love it. Love Harry Potter. Or whatever it may be. But here's the distinction. I'm not running away from anything. I love my life. I'm not hiding from anything. I'm not trying to suppress anything. I just want to unwind. And I want to just give people permission, not that you need permission from me in any capacity, but start to know the distinction. Are you running from something and numbing yourself, or do you just want some lightness? Because give yourself permission to watch TV. TV is not the devil either. I want to be very clear about that. It's I like watching a movie, and sometimes I won't watch TV for 3 or 4 weeks, literally. And sometimes I'll watch TV every night for an hour or so. It just happens sometimes. But if for whatever reason I'm using television or something out, and even exercise as a numbing agent, that's when I need to pull back, retreat into self, and ask myself some pretty serious and deep questions about what's happening in my world right now.
Yeah, ask yourself and also bring it to the tribe.
Yeah.
Bring it to the sons.
Yep.
Yeah, that's been super helpful, just in my own personal process, being able to come to you brothers and be like, fuck, I'm going through it. In our regular check-ins, and that's been huge for me to not resort to numbing, just to feel it and to be with it.
And to not be judged. That's the biggest thing, man, is to not be, I don't give a fuck if you bring the same thing to me 15 times a day. I'll put you in check as a healthy brother would, but I'll never judge you. Never. That's the relationship every man needs to strive for. I don't think I'm putting an unrealistic check out of reach here. I think we all have that capacity. We you put in the work, you put in the effort. That's another thing. In today's world, people don't want to put the effort. Everything needs to be convenient. Everything needs to be fast.
The pill.
Microwaves and toasters.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in getting comfortable in the uncomfortable. One of the parts of my path that was very meaningful for me was finding Sweat Lodge. The first lodge I'd ever went to, I had just been broken up with, coming out of a 3-year relationship. We had a business together. We had a dog together, all this kind of stuff. I was filled with resentment. I was like, I was wearing a backpack of resentment and blame going up the mountain to Sweat Lodge. And the lodge leader, the chief, his name is Hawk Moon. Shout out Hawk Moon. Shout out all the strong hearts. He looked at me and he just said to me, you know what all your relationships have in common? You're in all of them. So let's take a look at what you're doing. And getting that reflection from a man who I respected, who just looked me in the eyes and said, hey man, there's no space for all that blame that you're packing. It's time to put that shit down and look at what you're doing. That shifted me so deeply, that it really caused me to look at myself. And then sitting in 4 rounds of lodge and burning all that resentment off and coming out of that 4th round with gratitude and finding gratitude for the relationship that I had all that resentment for and really laying that down with the grandfather stones. And so, that was a tool for me to get out of a particular cycle. But that idea of, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's a huge one for men especially.
Oh, absolutely. And see, we go back to that challenge and discomfort and difficulty being a growth pathway for men. And we make the uncomfortable comfortable, and then we seek new challenge into discomfort again, and we make that comfortable, and that process continues. And all of a sudden what we're doing is we're building this repertoire of experience, rich life experience that gives us range. That's what we lack so much in this world. We lack range, but we have the potential. I lacked range. I don't feel I lack range now. Range is always increasing, but my base range before was, and I don't want to judge myself harshly, but it was weak. I wasn't putting in the effort. I was ignoring, I was numbing, I was suppressing, I was pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. And I knew it wasn't, but I still kept pretending it was. That's not range. It was all about convenience. Just avoid the pain. Avoid feeling,
Lean into the pain, lean into the feeling.
Lean in, brothers.
Lean into life.
It feels like teenage stuff too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Like the numbing and the avoiding and like, I know I need to do this, but I'm not going to do it. It's all teenager shit.
It's a carryover.
So what do you need to do with your teenager out there? For all of you listening, what kind of relationship do you need to build with your teenager?
You got to give that teenage self some love too.
Oh yeah.
We talk about inner child. We don't necessarily talk about that teenage time.
I think particularly that's a really powerful point, Jason, brother. That's awesome. That got me thinking now. So here's the interesting part. So females have this very distinct biological rite of passage. They move from no menstruation to menstruating. And that defines their womanhood at the beginning stages, of course, right? There are cultural impacts and influence as well. Now, they can have babies. Now, men don't have that. Men, yes, at some point we can create sperm and semen and so forth, and we can ejaculate, but it's not a very distinct rite of passage that happens to us.
Our purpose isn't like encoded within us.
No, it's not. No, not really. And so we all grow. Like, yes, things grow, our limbs grow, our sexual organs grow, but there's no distinct, oh wow, you're a man now.
Right.
And so men, and this is why we bang on about rites of passage, how important clear, appropriate rites of passage are, is because men need cultural rites of passage because we don't have that distinct biological one. So we need solid men in our lives to be able to lead us to the next evolution of our manhood, a sense of being a man, of our masculinity. Now, in modern times, I spoke about this with Jetty as well, we've got 60, 70, 80-year-old men that are still wanting to be initiated, that are still wanting to transition from boys to men.
Yeah.
So who's doing it for us? We have to learn. We're in an age where we have to learn to do it for ourselves, at least the initial part, and then say, okay, I can only go so far. I need tribe. And so if many people are doing this all over the world in different places, we're starting to initiate that tribal culture again. And men are then able to have these distinctive, clear, empowering rites of passage that take care of that teenage boy. Because I believe in old language, I think it's a relatively new term. The word teenager is a relatively new term. It was boy and man. That's it. You were a boy and now you're a man. There's nothing in between. There was no teenager. That's a relatively new term. And so for me, when I hear that, I think, okay, there was this very distinct transition that we had of boys being prepared to be men. They went through a process. You're a boy, you're a boy, you're a boy, you're a boy. Boy, you go through a series of tests, examinations, call them, life pursuits, embodiments, whatever. And now you've transitioned and you've metamorphosized into a man. We need more of that. And that, I think it's that inner teenager for males is more prominent than the inner child per se. Well, the little boy as well, but the inner teenager is something that's neglected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we're kind of seeing that in mass, these pseudo initiations or pseudo rites of passage, the binge drinking, the sexual conquest, without awareness really, because we're lacking that structure within society, to guide us forward, the elders, the wisdom. Just that kind of speaks to how crucial this work is right now, to be able to have spaces where men can come and join together and be initiated through challenge, through tests.
Yeah. And the Sacred Sons Convergence is that initiation for a lot of us, right? So Stefanos, when did Sacred Sons first come into your awareness?
Man, it came into my awareness when Burr reached out. I'm pretty sure when Burr reached out to me and said, man, we're doing some amazing things in the world and we'd love for you to be a part of it. And I was, when I checked it out, I was just massively humbled that, I was considered for that role in terms of, because that's a responsibility, I don't take that shit lightly, man. That's important to me. If I'm in for something, I want to make sure that I'm in, and it's a big responsibility. And I never doubted myself for a reason. I got off the phone with Auburn. I remember sharing with Christine. I said, this guy's just called me and he wants me to be part of this movement. And it's like, yeah, that's fucking right. I need to be part of this movement. Why wasn't I part of this movement before, But I was part of it in different ways and just riddled with excitement,
Yeah, 2 convergences deep after 2 and 3. How does it feel?
It just feels natural.
Yeah, my first experience of you, Steph, was showing up at Convergence 2, and we shared a carpet together during shadow work. And Trevor Spring was also on that carpet with us. And we flowed. We danced and we flowed, and it was like we had been rehearsing for a lifetime to do that work together. Yeah. And so I just want to honor you for the way that you showed up and the way that you show up at those convergences to support the men who are, in a way, going through that initiation.
Yeah, thank you, brother. That was a first man we took through outside of the tent. Remember that young man? We put him up above our heads. Remember, man, when we did that, I thought, I can't believe how seamless this was, and we've never worked together, and we've never served together. It was just, what the fuck? I was confused. I was just confused. I thought, what is this guy? Is he made out of steel? What is he? Is he real? Is he an alien? What's going on? And Trevor it was just the utmost respect for every single man here, that's in this room now. Neil, Burr, Jason, Adam, just ridiculous amounts of respect and reverence, guys. I mean, that's a rarity when that happens, It takes people years to have that connected flow. Years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's a knowingness within me that we're the ones, and that's a inclusive statement too for those who show up, and that it's like in some ways it makes sense too, right? That it's like, well, of course it had to be this way, that this doesn't exist. We're the ones that do it. You're
right. I really feel that. And it's not coming from a place of vanity or ego. It's coming from a place of deep service and commitment to that service, That's for me, that's what's important.
Yeah, it's really the great equalizer, the convergence, just coming together and doing the work. That's really where you see how men show up. Are you down? Are you all in?
Yeah. And, from that first time that we met, I just love the way you say, like, this is the new wave of healthy masculinity. I can't do the accent, but you got it. Yeah. But when you said that, man, it made me have a belief in what we're doing. It made me see the work that we're doing as a movement. Not just like we're creating a gathering and space to get together, but we're really creating a movement here. And that this movement really has waves and ripples that are expanding beyond the desert and the Hukumba, and the space that we hold. Like man, it really is the new wave. So just curious. I almost just want you to say the line, but like, what does it mean for you to say that, but to believe it? Because I don't know. It was one of those things where I was like, fuck, he nailed it.
Yeah, there's no prompt.
For me, the new wave of masculinity is it's a blending of the old that we've forgotten, and that's part cultural but part biological. I think we've really disconnected from our evolution as men and part of what we're here for to do. That is to carry mastery in our hands, to be active with our hands, to create. Men create. Women give birth and create. Men create in the world. And can we take that creation not only to serve us, but to serve, as we're such a connected, globalized society now, we have to think more inclusively, not to the extent that we have to consider 7.6 billion people. I don't think that's particularly possible from a brain functioning perspective, but just start with your family and community. Start with yourself. Give yourself some care, Start with yourself, but really have that level of inclusivity. So it's that blending of the old and coming into this massive expansion of consciousness that we're experiencing as a collective and as individuals in this cultural paradigm, which is very different to what it was even 50 years ago. The rapid growth that we're experiencing on so many different levels now, it's unprecedented. So it's how do we blend these healthy elements of the old, more biological than anything else. And part of that, by the way, is being in tribe. We've evolved in tribes. Part of that is being strong in our bodies, being physically adept, having confidence in our bodies. That's part of that old that so many of us live sedentary lifestyles. What do? We just sit all day. We don't do anything. We're not strong in our bodies. Women aren't attracted to that. Women are biologically, unconsciously not attracted to that. They see that and they think, are you confident? Are you strong? I'm not saying you have to be the strongest person in the room, or you have to be able to run 100 meters faster than Usain Bolt, or be the best fighter in the world. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just got to do with, do you just trust your body? As a man, do you just trust your body? Do you move your body? That's it. That's all it is. Do you believe in your body? That's a big part of that new wave of masculinity, bringing that back in and getting men connected to their bodies and to earth again. And balancing that with, what does this new expression of man look like? Can a man actually just really be in his healthy masculinity? And there's so much that defines that. And can he adapt to this new climate? Because we're in a new cultural climate in many different ways. And so we're creating that as we go though, right? But if we don't ask these questions, and if we don't get together as men and lean on each other, because that's part of bringing that old back, then I don't think we're going to get anywhere. I think we're going to remain isolated.
Yeah, get together first and foremost.
And just observe the magic from there. Yeah. There doesn't have to be an expectation on that. You can have a framework, and again, here at Sacred Sons, we have those frameworks for what does it look like to actually, well, I don't want to say run a meeting. It's not really a meeting, but it's a congregation. It's a gathering. What does that mean? What's the structure of that gathering look like to give it some substance, right? To help you really tap into a deeper aspect of yourself, to help tap into, okay, what do I really need to express today that's going to help me feel freer in my being, that's going to make me a more profound human being and help me have more impact on my life and those that I care about. We have that structure here, and I think men are coming wise to that. I think one of the biggest issues men face is isolation. It's feeling alone, feeling that no one shares their shit, that they're the only ones struggling. We see that in the Convergence all the time.
Yeah.
We saw it on our call last
yesterday.
Night.
Yeah. I was like, wow, it was crazy to see this brother shift just with the awareness. Jason's like, who else has that? Every man raised their hand, and he literally was like thrown back.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're listening to this If you need some of that medicine, join us on the group calls. We got a monthly membership. Get on calls with us.
Which is about to go boom, by the way. Membership, isn't it, Ober? Yeah, it is, brother.
We got some big plans for you guys coming up in 2020.
So what's the edge of your facilitating development? Like, what drives you? Like, what are the pieces that you love when you're creating curriculum for experiential pieces that you just get so excited about?
Yeah, for men particularly, it's creating an experience that allows them to see a part of themselves that they've never seen before. That they didn't even knew existed within them. And it's this big breath of fresh air, and at the same time it's super fucking daunting and super exciting, but really scary. And I don't mean to be sadistic when I say that. I say that from a place of love, because I know that fear of the unknown is an access point into a deeper part of themselves. And so when I'm thinking about and feeling into what experiences can we create for each other that helps us bond deeper to who we are, but also deeper to our brothers, I start thinking about what I've been through in my life. I start thinking about how can I grow? What do I need right now as well? Irrespective of where I'm at life, what do I need right now? You know, I was teaching an event. Christine and I were teaching a relationship workshop at dear friends of ours, Chris and Laurie Harders in LA, a couple of weeks ago, last week. I made a comment about Laurie. We were giving some pretty basic work around belief systems. And, you know, Laurie's been in personal growth for many years. She's no stranger to it. But she was so into doing this exercise. And I said to her, we were at dinner later on, and I said to her, you know what really impresses me about you, not that you're a personal development guru or that you've got no issues and you're perfect, by no means, but that you're always willing to do the simple. Every time I see you, you're just willing to do the simple work. You're really willing to redo it again for the 100th time, the 1000th time, whatever. And I think that's really important for us, because, you know, we're leaders in this space, but we're also students. You know, we let's be real, we teach what we need to learn the most. You know, I teach what I teach because I'm a student of that, and I want to learn more and more and more. And so when I'm coming up with these exercises, or I'm leaning on other people, you know, other workshops that I've been to and other experiences that I've had, and I'm combining and I'm blending and I'm creating whatever, I think, well, what do I need right now as well? Because I know that whatever it is that they need, I need too. My mum needed a different expression, but I feel I'm astute enough to realize, okay, what level of expression do they need it? But I need it too. So if I'm teaching it, I obviously need it. So how can I grow from that too? Yeah.
Love it.
It was so amazing to watch you twice, you know, on Alpha and Omega sessions, in there for 2 hours in that space for you. Like you saying that now, like totally saw you in that, and to see the men get that too, especially in your workshop where they're standing for 45 minutes straight. Yeah.
Yeah, you brought the growth edge out for sure. Yeah. In that container, and just thinking about my group, they're like dumbfounded. How do we do this? That was fun.
Yeah, Stephanos is really bringing the edge of man and sex. If you're curious to what goes down in that workshop, you'll have to join us for a Convergence or an EMX, where Stephanos will be joining us.
EMP.
Or the EMP.
Yeah.
Watch out for that embodied masculine prime coming in 2020.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right, and with that, we want to thank our brother Stephanos for joining us this evening. We're going to continue the party here, continue the conversation, but man, it's really cool to drop in with you. Like I said, it's an honor to share the carpet with you and to facilitate with you. It really is. And those moments are very precious, and it doesn't happen often enough. So we hope that you're going to be joining us for more events as we continue this journey of Sacred Sons.
That's a given. Honestly, for me, it is one of the most enlightening and enriching experiences to be able to do that. You know, I do that shadow work on my own for men and for small groups of men. It's just not the same. I'm not going to lie, it's just not the same when you've got your brothers there facilitating, holding together.
Yeah.
It's just something so special.
Yeah.
That's why we rise together.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, brothers.
On top of that, I don't know how this is going to weave in, but I just want to thank you again for your realness, and I want to honor the space that you're in, man, and with the move, and we hear that you're going to miss Southern California, and Southern California is going to miss you as well, brother. So you always have a home here with us, and we know we'll be seeing you, and we're going to come to you. We're going to come to Texas. We're going to come to Austin, Texas, and see you.
You're the Sacred Sons in Austin,
I like that. I like
There
that.
we go.
There's a need for it there too. I feel that.
Austin, we're coming for you.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Stephanos leading the charge.
All right. With that, Sacred Sons, we out.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace, y'all. All right, Sacred Sons has some upcoming events. The EMX, Embodied Masculine Experience, is coming to a few cities around the U.S. The EMX is a 30-man retreat weekend which features men's councils, nature immersion, breath work, ritual connection, and shadow work. And it's really for those looking for a deeper connection in brotherhood. So December 6th through 8th, EMX Phoenix, Arizona. That one is almost sold out. And then we go into 2020. January 3rd through 5th, we'll be in Miami, Florida. February 28th through March 1st, we'll be back here in San Diego, California. There's also a facilitator training option for that one in San Diego. And March 20th through 22nd, we'll be in Maui, Hawaii. And that Maui date is limited to 20 brothers. So if you're interested, check out sacredsons.com to learn more about those dates and other offerings. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Much love.